Hi, Emily. Thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. And Emily has also been in the Facebook group that I run, the Second Spring Natural Skincare and Wellness, to share her business. So we're already familiar with one another, but I wanted her to maybe share a bit of her journey so our podcast listeners could hear as well. So, Emily, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just kind of share your story, what led you to start your creative business, kind of like tell us what life was like before the business and, how it has changed things for you now.
Sure. So the business that I do now has actually evolved quite a bit from where I started. I started my Etsy shop initially about 6 years ago. And back then I was doing like religious wall art type things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very different from what you're doing
Very, very
now.
different. And just over time, I really honed in on what I was really good at and what I wanted to share and help other people with.
Mhm.
And that, of course, also came about when my husband, who's a dentist, we paid off his $300,000 of student loans in just a few years. And I had so many people asking me, how did you guys do that? That's an
Mhm.
incredible feat. And so I was like, oh, I actually know how to teach people about budgeting and saving money and getting out of debt. And part of that is managing your money wisely and using cash envelopes, which is what I really sell the most,
Yes.
to be able to help them with managing their money and finances. And so that's really how my business evolved to what it is today, which is helping people learn how to manage their money, use cash in their budget to be able to save money, stay under budget, and really make progress with their finances and finally find financial freedom for themselves and their families.
Yeah, I love your envelope system. I actually use envelopes myself, but I'm going to be purchasing some of yours and I want the ones that come, I like how yours come in a binder as well. So you can kind of manage everything together. Like, I'm too embarrassed to even show you what mine look like, but they're actually like crumpled envelopes that have like crossed out like Sharpie labels on them that I keep changing. It's just so silly.
Oh yeah.
So what is it like today now that you have this growing Etsy shop, the Ruby Swan, and how does life look for you today? You're also a busy mom.
I am a busy mom.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids. Actually, I have number 4 on the way.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I'm in the
Congratulations.
throes of the early part of pregnancy, which is so delightful. But basically what it looks like now, it is a growing Etsy shop, but it's still very manageable. I get, I work for a couple hours in the morning to kind of push through the orders that I need to get through and then take care of my family throughout the rest of the day. But it is definitely having a business, one that I can manage myself and from home, has definitely changed our family's finances. So not only am I able to bless other people by helping them with their finances, but then our family is also able to be blessed to, do things that we want to do as a family, but also continue on working towards our financial goals.
Yeah, I like the way you've described that because yours is kind of unique in that is what your business is helping other people manage their finances. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us what kind of a typical day looks like for you. Because a lot of women like to hear and even like to watch like YouTube videos of what a typical day looks like a day in the life of a working mom.
Right. Well, let's see. Is there a typical day? Is that a thing?
Yeah, right. I know it's always different, right?
So right now, actually, all of my kids are in school. My youngest is in kindergarten. That'll of course change in the fall when I have my fourth baby. So, in the morning I get up, I get my kids ready and out the door to school, and then I spend some time getting myself up and ready for the day. I find I am most productive when I can get myself ready, get dressed fully, do my hair, do my makeup, really feel prepared myself. And then I'll spend a couple hours in the morning taking care of orders, fulfilling orders, answering customer service questions, trying to really help people the best way that I can, answering emails. And then I'd really like to get my orders to the post office and out the door by 2:30. That's when the post office closest to me heads out the door. So then when my kids get home, I can take care of them in the afternoon, start working on dinner, taking them to sports, dance, soccer, all the things.
All the things.
And then
yeah.
my husband gets home 5:36 and we have family time, dinner time as a family. And then it's off to bed for the kids. And my husband and I will spend the evening doing things together or pursuing other hobbies together, or hobbies individually, sorry.
Yeah, I know a lot of women, particularly those with Etsy shops in the beginning, at least, they're answering customer service emails and responding to Etsy kind of all hours of the day. And when you work for yourself, sometimes it's hard to kind of turn off those hours and really keep to some kind of a schedule. Do you have kind of hours where you don't respond and you have hours that are set aside just for the business?
I try to keep business hours when my kids are in school, although, and I try not to do anything on Sunday in particular, because that's really the whole day we have as a family. But there are times Etsy will punish you if you don't answer emails immediately.
Right, that's a new thing, right?
That's a new thing.
Yeah.
So I do check my email frequently just to see, do I have any messages? But I really try hard to keep, especially Sundays, but sometimes whole weekends, just a family time. And I have gone through periods. This time last year during the pandemic was crazy for a lot of people, including me. I was getting so many orders per day that there was a time where I couldn't like get my inventory in fast enough.
Yep.
So there was a time when I was like literally all day long from sun up to sundown, I was just pushing orders, just trying to get them through and keep up, because I had like 80, 100 orders.
It was nuts, wasn't it?
It was
and there was
crazy.
no
It was
warning.
crazy. And I'm like, I literally like I'd make dinner and then I'd be like, I have to go back and work, and I'd be up working till midnight because I had to get these orders done and out the door on time. So there are definitely seasons. I'm in a very like low, like, I don't know if you could say low key, but very steady season right now, which is very nice. And I like it.
Yeah.
But there are definitely, fourth quarter, getting close to the holidays, things always ramp up, and you just kind of have to decide, okay, what am I willing to do? How am I going to make this work? And just kind of make a plan, and, and also willing to be flexible, because life is crazy. Like, things happen that you don't expect.
Yeah. And it really takes, a year or two in business at least to kind of figure out what those ebbs and flows are. For sure. And I can relate to that pandemic madness. Imagine I have like self-care kits. So that went like off the charts crazy. And I had no idea what was happening. And when you don't have a plan in place, which we don't often as women entrepreneurs, you just have to kind of figure it out as you go. Yeah. So speaking of products, like I know how I make my products. I have a studio in my house where I physically make the products. What is your process like for that? Because with planners, you rely on printing and, even the envelopes. How do you do that?
So we have a home office. I have a designated corner where I do a lot of my work. So the binders are pre-made for me, but I personalize them. And then the plastic envelopes, the reusable envelopes, are pre-made. And I will personalize each one of those envelopes using vinyl, actually. So I cut out the vinyl. I cut each word individually, weed out the extra stuff, transfer it onto the envelopes, and then I have designed the trackers that go with my envelopes. So those I have a printer make for me, and then I package it all together. So making the envelopes is the big personalization section that I do, and it takes quite a bit of time to do each one individually.
Do you use like a Cricut to do that?
A silhouette
like that? Okay, yeah. So I think for women who are thinking of starting an Etsy business, personalization is something that really draws customers to Etsy. Would you agree? So it's kind of worth the effort.
On Etsy, I've always done well with personalized products, and I've always done them myself, which takes quite a bit of time, but it does well because it is so individualized.
Okay. So can you speak to maybe some challenges you've had since starting your business? Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced?
Figuring out what I wanted to do for a long time. Like I said, I started doing religious wall art almost.
Yeah, how did that start? Religious wall art. How did you?
Well, my family is religious. We attend our church. And so honestly, how this started was about 60 years ago. I had my 3 little kids at home, and I was bored. I mean, I was busy, but like it was there was nothing that I was working on for me personally. And, when all the kids were napping and the house is clean, it's like, I'm not tired. I don't want to take a nap all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but I started to have this real motivation, this real inner drive to start a business. And I couldn't explain why or what it is I really wanted to do. So I was like, well, I'm really religious, so let's just start with that and see what happens. And that went well for a little while. But then, I was 6, 8, 9 months along and nothing was really happening in my business. So then I got into like the lip sense craze that was going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the only MLM I've ever done. And it didn't go well. I lasted 6 months and I said, I'm out. And then I got into an entrepreneurial course, and that really opened my eyes to kind of what was possible, to really see like, oh, this is how I could do things differently without just like throwing stuff on Etsy and hoping it's going to work. And that's what I got my first big win. I actually took chalkboards and personalized them to be like back to school, first day of school chalkboards,
Yeah.
So that was super fun. And then just through that course and trying different things, and again going through the getting out of debt process, I realized how I could use what I've learned, use what I want to do, and kind of make it work for both. So really figuring out what I wanted to do, but then also learning to be patient, because you see these success stories that look like they're overnight, and they never are, but they look like they are. And you're always like, why? I've been doing this for 5 years. They're successful in 1 year. The comparison game that I feel like so many of us play, like, I'm here, why am I not there, really takes the joy out of things. I feel like it took the joy out of business for me for a while. And so I had to realize I'm only competing with myself.
Oh my gosh, what a huge lesson. I completely agree.
Huge.
I think we still have to remind ourselves of that though.
I still have to remind myself of that.
Like,
I'm only competing with myself.
Yeah.
I love all these things that you see on social media where it's like women empower women, let's help each other. Let's build each other up. This competition. No. We're going to work together to build each other up.
Exactly. I think in the beginning, we have this natural sense of competition because it's almost like an insecurity. Like, why isn't this working? Why aren't I here? And it's just, it comes from a place of not knowing. Yeah. But then it eventually kind of it goes away. And it does come with reminding yourself that, wait, I have to focus on what I'm doing and just keep my head in my game and not worry about what they're doing, because you don't know what their story is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge lesson too, that women can learn if they're thinking of starting a business, but really just life in general, right? I think it kind of carries over.
Mental health, wellness in general, like the comparison is the thief of joy. And if you can focus on making the life that you want, how you want it, then it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, as long as you're happy with how your life is going, right? Like, you're competing with yourself, not with somebody else's picture perfect version they put on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a game changer when you make that mind shift. So you mentioned that you took an entrepreneurial course. Do you remember what the course was? Like, if you asked me, I probably wouldn't remember. What is it?
Oh, I'm still in it. It's called the 0 to 100K course with Allison J. Prince.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got in. I was, I think, one of her first 100 students. I jumped into that. That's coming up on 5 years now. It's 2017, and it just really opened my eyes to how to do things differently and how to test products without like jumping full in.
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
You could do that. And I'm still on the course. I'm still on the Facebook group. It's a fabulous course. I learned so much.
I'm going to have to jump into her Facebook group, because I have heard of her, and, you hear of so many, but I really like now to hear from people and get their actual experiences rather than, just jumping in and not knowing, because there are a lot of bad courses out there. And bad influencers and things like that. So if there's a good one, we definitely want to promote that. All right. So the Allison J. Prince, from 0 to 5K or 0 to 100K.
Yep.
Right.
And her goal is to help. Her initial goal was to help 1,000 people reach $100,000 in sales.
Oh, fun.
I think she's blown past that by now.
I'm sure, because I definitely know her name.
Again, everyone's journey is different. So I'm still pushing for that 100K sales goal, and I'm getting close, but I've been in the course 5 years, and a lot has happened, but I'm getting close to that. I'm like, I'm finally going to be one of her people.
Great. I love that. Okay. So what about, we talked about challenges. What about some of your greatest joys? Because hopefully the joys outweigh the challenges at this point,
Yeah.
right?
I really love it when I get a positive review from a customer and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. I love it so much. This is so helpful. This is going to be so great. Because that's why I do this, right? That's why I spend the time to make these things and promote them so that other people can be helped. And so whenever I get a positive review, I'm always like, oh, good. I'm so glad. Like, I really, really hope that this is going to help you. And then I just love how this business I've created has been able to bless my family.
Sorry. The dog here.
That's all right.
I have a German Shepherd. He's usually pretty good, but every now and again, like a rabbit comes up on the porch and he loses his mind. So that reminds me just, there's quiet moments in the studio where I'm doing and looking at the quarantine madness that had happened. People were sending each other these care packages because they hadn't seen each other in so long. And my gift boxes are also all personalized. They put messages on cards. And just like, I used to just sit down there, like with tears running down my face, reading these to myself, thinking I'm this middleman, this silent go-between, delivering this message to this heartfelt message. And some of them were like heartbreaking messages. But just doing that kind of reminds me that this is what it's all about. And when you focus on those things, and not necessarily the financial aspect, I think the finances follow. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I've heard several times, I've followed many entrepreneurs and coaches where it's like, if you help people and focus on helping people, the finances follow. So if you stress about, I have to make this much money.
Yes.
It's almost like you're repelling, right? But if you focus on helping and blessing others, then the finances follow.
It truly is all about this positive energy flow, what you put out there. Yep. So let's see. I have 2 more questions to ask you, and then I'm going to ask you where we can find you online, of course. So any books that you would recommend? You can see I have a library behind me. I'm also a literature teacher, but I love to read business books. In the Facebook group, you've noticed that we're doing a theme every month, and we're delving into some book or another. And most of the books are books that I have probably read once or twice and just want to share them with other women. So any books in terms of business or in terms of like just wellness in general that you would recommend?
Let me think. In terms of like financial wellness, the first book that got me started was actually Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover.
Yes.
I read that right out of dental school when I was like, we've got to figure out what we're going to do here. And I devoured it in just a couple of days. So that was a really big one. I really like actually Jen, is it Sincero or Sincero?
Yes.
In the group. I listened to hers, You're a Badass at Making Money. That's a really good one. Because that's
Isn't
really
it good?
You can do it. You are empowered to do this.
And really all of her books, I think, are
fabulous.
good.
I haven't read all of them, but they're on my list.
Yeah.
And then I haven't read this one yet, but the Budget Moms, My Money, My Way, it just came out. And it really tells her story of going from, super in debt to now this amazing influencer woman who helps women figure out their finances and get themselves out of debt and create financial freedom. So I think those 3 would be my go-tos for getting yourself onto a path of financial wellness.
Great. All right. So what advice in general would you give to a woman who is thinking of maybe starting an Etsy shop or just starting a business in general?
Wow.
Maybe like your best piece of advice, the thing that helped you the most.
Sure. I think be willing to take the chance. I thought about starting an Etsy shop for probably a year and a half before I actually did. And I was reading articles and it like scared me. I was like, okay, no, we're not going to do this. But especially in the Entrepreneurial Course Facebook group that I'm in, there's a lot of people that jump into the course and then are terrified to actually start to figure out that first product, to to, you know, to put that first thing out there for sale. They're terrified to start, which I get. Like, it's scary. You're putting yourself out there, but be willing to start. We have a saying. It's like, don't be afraid to burn the first pancake, right?
Oh,
The
I
first
like
pancake
that.
you make,
Yeah.
it's dark,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't always go well, and that's okay. Like, the product that you start with doesn't have to be what you're going to sell forever.
Yeah.
Like, I changed 50 times, it feels like.
Yeah, it probably changes for everyone, actually,
Right.
in some capacity or another. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to stay with what you start with, but you do have to start, because starting is where you're going to learn everything.
100%.
You have to start to learn to keep going.
Yep. I hear of so many women who are stuck in that planning stage, and it's just different personality types too, where they want everything perfect and they spend a year in research. And I have friends like that, and it's frustrating for me because I want to just pick something and go. You know, I'm one of those jump off the cliff and build the parachute on the way down people. Right. So I'm the opposite extreme, where I could probably use a little more planning ahead of time. But, you know, finding that place in the middle, I think is the sweet spot.
I can definitely, like, I can get stuck in the planning mode when I'm trying to think of, you know, new products. Like, how am I going to make this work? Let's make this perfect. I'm like, wait, no, we just need to get it good enough.
Good enough.
And you can always fix it and modify and change along the way. You just have to get started.
Yep. Well, this has been great. I really love talking to you about this, and thanks for, you know, I gave you some questions ahead of time and then asked you almost everything that was completely different, just based on your responses. I wanted to know more. So can you tell us, where can we find and connect with you online? I'm going to include your information, of course, in the description of the podcast and also on YouTube.
Yeah, so my Etsy shop is the Ruby Swan on Etsy. I do have a Facebook page. It hasn't been super active lately. I've actually been working on a secondary business called Savvy Frugal Mom. So that's also an Etsy shop, and on TikTok.
Oh, how's TikTok going for you? I just started it, and I feel like the most awkward, like, old mom trying to do TikTok. I never felt like that until I tried to do TikTok.
I've gone in waves. It's actually going pretty good. I've got a lot of ideas, but again, having gone through first trimester throws the last couple of months, I've taken a bit of a break, but I've actually had quite a bit of success, especially like telling your story on TikTok. People want to hear your story, and they really resonate with that.
Ah, that's amazing. Well, I'm, you know, in awe, because I got frustrated with TikTok and the time it was taking me, and actually paid my neighbor, who's a college student, to do it, because she's good at it. So that was one of the things I outsourced. All right. So Emily, I'm going to include all of your information so our listeners and viewers can find you. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today and share your story.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so great.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful day, and good luck with your business.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.